And you know what? I've never been so grateful for someone to piss in my bed because it took the heat off my fucking performance the night before.
This is Wild Yarns with Samara and Sheri.
So today we are doing bad dates. And not all dates are bad. Some of them are just weird or strange. We just wanted to give you guys a safe space to talk about some of the strange things that have happened to you in the dating world, I guess, because we've definitely been on a few.
I have a massive list of bad dates. I had a period of time where I just did not make it past the first date because they were all bad dates. Like there was no second dates happening. It was just a string of first terrible dates. Like just, yeah, I've got some tales to tell.
I don't know. I sometimes think though, and I think like I'm single. I'm so fucking single that like I was thinking the other day of just strapping my Satisfyer Pro on a robot vacuum and just waiting for it to bump into me. And that would be more exciting than going out and dating. And I've recently taken a break from dating. You have an incredible partner. But I think when my friends like yourself and me, I guess, when we're out dating people, it is crazy out there because, you know, I feel like online dating has made dating so, like...
I think that people are more disposable now.
Yes. It's like
you
Uber
just
Eats.
flick through them and it's like, oh, if the person's got one little thing, on to the next.
Totally. But sometimes you need to do that when they cray. So,
yeah, like there are certain like red flags or things that just for you are not, they're a no-go, that they're a hard pass, and that's completely fine. But when you're like, I don't like the food he orders, like then that's a bit silly.
like,
but yeah,
pick your battles.
Yeah, but I've had some dates where as soon as something's happened, I'm like, yeah, I'm out. Like this is done. Like this ain't going no further. Like
yeah, but I've heard some of yours and they are fucking horrid. So I get behind that. But I've had some good ones. Like, for example, ladies, men, whomever, I put in my dating profile that I effing love Woolies mud cakes. I've had blokes rock up with Woolies mud cakes for me. I'm like, I can get behind this. So they haven't all been bad, but I guess there have been some odd ones out there. So maybe I kick it off with, I was talking to some of my other friends and they're like, you've got to tell this story. And it's interesting. I'm only sharing two of my own and I've got some that have been written into me. I'm only sharing two of my own and it's interesting because both of the dudes have the same name.
Is it like some sort of basic name, like a Kevin or a Brad? Or
Name. It's such a basic name.
John,
I want to say it.
Say it.
It starts with T.
Tom.
And rhymes with rim.
Tim?
I don't know. Both of them have had that name.
Hey, don't try to get a dyslexic to do fucking rhyming tales. That took me a minute.
I thought of that on the drive over. I was like, well, someone's gonna hear this. Somebody's gonna hear this. So yeah, the first bloke, it wasn't a first date. We had been dating for a minute. The thing is, I'd never gone to his house. And he had a daughter, which was not a problem for me. I think I'm 35. Like, when you get a bit older, people have kids or ex-wives or whatever, you just sort of suck it up. Like, it's fine. Who cares? Whenever we went on dates, he presented so well. Like, he dressed immaculately. He was so well manicured. Always had, like, really expensive stuff. And back then, I would have been late 20s, early 30s. I was in a small business back then, so I was not flashing cash around or anything. I hadn't made my millions yet. So I was like, wow, this guy's really got his act together. Anyways, one day he invited me over his house and I was like, oh, cool. Like, I haven't seen his house before. This is awesome. This is fine. And I went to his house and walked in the door. And look, no shade on this. I just maybe thought his priorities are a little bit wrong. Walked in, there was like no furniture in the house. And it was like, I was like, oh, okay.
Did he just move?
Not at all. There was like a tiny, like in his lounge room, there was one of those glass tabled outdoor settings. You know, the ones that like people have like drinks like back.
Oh, every parent
the
has
sesh
one.
table. Yes. One of those in his lounge room. There was
in the lounge room.
in the lounge room. There was
an outdoor setting inside.
Yes. And then
he totally got that off someone and was like, good enough.
It was around the time, you know, maybe he's just picked it off the street. Who knows?
Curbside pickup.
Yes.
I do love curbside pickup.
Yeah, look, and I was just so shocked because I was like, wow, this person like presented so well and his house is a bit weird. In his whole kitchen, there was just clothes. So his kitchen he must just walk in home, dump all this stuff on the kitchen. I was like, oh, okay, that's very strange. And he invited me to come over and watch a movie. I was like, this is really weird. And then when I went into his bedroom, it was just filled with teddy bears.
Wait.
Like
Like-
teddy bears
Like
everywhere.
any sort of random teddy bear or like a collectible teddy bear, like those
Oh,
Beanie
shit.
Babies that were like the collectible thing, or
Bit of like, the Eka style teddy bears, like the Carney teddy, like the big plush teddy bears. It was every single teddy bear under the sun.
I'm surprised you're still with us here because he sounds like a serial killer.
I like
Presents really well, really like, and then you get to his place and there's teddy bears. Like that's serial killer vibes.
it was, and we were at that time already like doing it with each other, so that was like happening. Anyways, so I went into his room. There's fucking teddy bears everywhere, and I just thought it was
It's just got to be like the biggest turn off to go like.
oh
No matter who you are, like to just go into someone's room and there's just fucking teddy bears. Like even if you're a girl, like just teddy bears. Like
I've never felt like I've had such an audience, to be honest. But
maybe that's why he likes them.
well, it turns out, and I don't know if this is normal, please, parents, don't come for me. His kid was about 8 and he's like, oh, like because I looked in her room, there's no bed. He's like, oh, when she comes over, she sleeps in my bed. I was like, cool. Like, no, and I am not saying.
But why
I'm not
wouldn't the teddy
suggesting-
bears just be in her room? Like even if she doesn't sleep in there, like it's her things, her room.
Don't know.
I feel like that's like, oh yeah, they're completely
They're
my
for my daughter, but
or
they're
me.
mine.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it was so weird. So that was his sort of cover for all the teddy bears being there. And then I was like, oh, well, I came over to watch a film. There's like no couch. There's fucking shit everywhere here. You've taken me now into your room. Teddy bears are everywhere. Where's your TV at?
Did he know that you were coming to his? Like
Yes.
before
So he asked me over.
So he had plenty of time to clean and it wasn't just a spontaneous thing.
Yes. And then I went in and he's like, babe, I don't have a TV. We're going to have to watch it. We're going to have to watch it on my phone.
Oh,
Can we log
nah.
into your Netflix?
Nah, that's a
And
bail.
I was like,
Can we log into your Netflix? So he
Can
doesn't-
we log into your Netflix?
What does he do? Like with his free time at home, does he just stare at a wall
I
or
don't
sitting
know.
on the floor? Well, because he doesn't have a couch.
Out buying fucking bougie shit, clearly. I don't know. It was such a juxtaposition because I was like, this person presented so well, had the gift of the gab. We'd gone on some really incredible dates. And I'm like, mate, you should not be buying me $20 margaritas. You should be investing in like a futon or something.
Mate, Fantastic Furniture sells package deals. You can fully furnish a house for $800. Like
Oh, absolutely. And I was just
Facebook
like,
Marketplace. It's not hard, people.
I was just so, I was a bit thrown after that. And it was weird. Like, the teddies were there. We were getting it on. And I'm like looking at it and he's like, oh, that's Brown Bear or something. I'm like,
That's
"Fuck
brown.
me.
That's fucking names.
Get me out of here. And I think it's on me because I still was hanging around. Like, I was like, oh, well, your teddies, I'll just chuck a leg over and get out of here.
How old were you at this?
I was like 29. I was not
Oh,
young.
You can't even claim I was young.
I was
like-
having my second hoe phase. I'd come out of like a long relationship. And
Oh, well,
I
see,
would-
that's what you come out of a long relationship. You're not exactly looking for winners straight
no,
after.
like I come out and this was the first person. Actually, both of these people have been the first person I've dated since coming out
Just
of a
got to
relationship.
stay away from those men. Like
I- That's why I took myself out. That's why I need to be kept in captivity. I can't be trusted out there dating people because I end up with interesting thoughts. So that was like my tale, and we just one day stopped talking to each other. It wasn't like an announced thing. We just stopped talking. I think both of us were like,
yeah, it ain't going any further.
yeah. Like when Forrest Gump eventually just stops, like when he's running and he just one day just stops. And
Yeah, he's like, I'm
"Okay."
done now.
Yeah, that was like the end of that. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So that was that. But yeah, that was my first interesting, like I've had a few, I feel like mostly my dates have been pretty good. Like it was just things like that I was like, oh, this is weird. So yeah, that was my interesting date story. I did have another story of someone's, and I hope this is my friend Bridget. I met her up North Queensland. She's an absolute legend. She shared this perler of a story, which I'll read off my phone with me. And I hope I do her story justice because when I heard this, I was like, that is unbelievable, but okay. So Bridget was at a festival. She had lost all her friends at a festival and
I've been there.
yeah,
I think we've all been there at one point.
yeah,
And
lost
'cause Your phone reception, nah, too many people, one space.
Absolutely. She's lost all her mates. They've gone, I don't know what festival it was, but it was one that they were all camping at. So she's lost everyone at the festival. She randomly, and everyone had drank a lot. They've taken some party favors. They're lit. And she randomly met this bloke, and he'd lost all his friends. So it was a little bit of a kismet moment. They they were sitting up on a hill, and she's like, oh, it was such a beautiful moment. Like, we're sitting on this hill. We'd both lost all our friends. We're pretty high, pretty drunk, just loving life. And over the course of the day, they went and saw some bands, and he's like, they're chats with strangers. Sometimes you can be more vulnerable with strangers than you can with your own mates. And they're talking about, what they like in relationships and not. And they're sitting on this hill, and he turns to her and goes, I really want to eat people. Like, I have a thing for eating flesh. And she's an absolute legend.
I would be literally legging it. As soon as if someone said that, nah, I'm not hanging around, I'm out.
Mate, I mean, inflation's a bitch if you're going to start eating people. Shit's expensive these days.
I did hear once that, like, cannibals don't like people with tattoos, so go and get yourself some tattoos and you're good. Yeah.
I'm set. So yeah, he said it. He's like, I want to eat flesh. Anyway, she said, I started to smell a shit smell, and he kept on saying to me, can you smell poo? And she's like, yeah, I can. I don't know what's going on. They're like checking their shoes and stuff, and she's like, oh, it was weird. There's this poo smell hanging around. We didn't know what it was. And they kept on partying towards the end of the day. And even the flesh thing, she's like, weird flex, but I think she just lost all her mates. She was just on board with it.
I would still prefer to be alone.
Yeah. She's alleged. So they saw out their day together. And at the end of the day, she's like, look, I'm going to go back to my campsite. And he said, okay, I'll walk you back. He walked her back, just left her there. And she's like, that's so weird. He didn't even ask for my number. And I'm like, babe, like the flesh.
Red flag.
The fucking flesh. Anyways, got back to her friends.
There's not like a bigger red flag than that. Like,
the real kicker though, she got back to her friends, and they're like, mate, you smell like shit. She shit her pants on the hill.
so she didn't realise. Was she that drunk?
She shit herself. Been walking around all day.
Oh, that's why.
And he's like,
he might want to eat flesh, but his standards, he's still got standards. Like,
the funniest bit is their mates came out and they're like, hey, don't feel bad. I shit my pants too. Whatever they took made them all shit their pants. And she's like, oh, I was a bit taken back that flesh guy didn't ask for my number or anything.
well, clearly standards. Like, he might want to be a cannibal, but he won't be doing anything with poop anytime soon.
Dirty ass ain't getting eaten. So yeah, that was another story that I got sent in to me. All my stories, and guys, please send your stories in to us, and that's why I'm looking at my phone. All of my stories were stories that were submitted, so I hope I'm doing them justice in reading them out. So please send your stories into us. I'd prefer to read stories out from our community rather than randos. So this is another really interesting one that it's a bit weird. It's not as funny as shitting your pants and flesh eating. So this one is a friend of a friend. He always had a bit of a mystery thing around his job. There was a lot of boundaries up in terms of she hadn't seen his house, lots of things. They'd been dating for a bit. And one night out at dinner, he responded to a different name. He said his name was something it wasn't. So his name's Peter. He's like, oh yeah, my name's Charlie or something like that. So Peter, Charlie or whatever. And then she started to get some vibes that there was something very wrong. Like, I feel like female intuition is on another level. Mind you, I'm just ignoring mine all the time. That old thing.
Oh, that gut instinct. It's just a bit of gas.
Yeah. I feel like everyone over 30 has IBS, so I'm like, I don't know what it is. Anyways, this chick, she's so smart. And honestly, I wanted to say this story because it was so fucking smart what she did. She's like, I need to get to the bottom of this. She put his number into Pay ID to see what name came up. I was like, that is so smart. Did that. The name was not the name that he had given her. And she looked up that name, registered sex offender. he had just gotten out of jail for 20 years, which I feel like sex offenders always just get a fucking slap on the wrist. It's disgusting. So for whatever he's done is pretty bloody bad.
Did it say on the register?
I think it did. I didn't. So this part of the story didn't filter down to me. I don't know what he did. It was 20 years worth of bad. So this poor chick confronted him about it. He just denied the whole sort of thing, and she's now on stress leave from work. She is just absolutely thrown it into.
How long was she dating? Was it first date or just?
No,
she'd
they'd been dating for a while. Yeah, they'd been dating for a while.
Fucking hell.
I know. Dating for a while, and then that had happened, and yeah, she wasn't having a good time. Now she's on stress leave, which is
You have to be like so careful, and like
absolutely.
especially if you're a woman, because that shit can happen. And yeah, I have like a few, like when I was dating, I'm lucky I'm not dating anymore, thank God. But I had like a few things, like I'd never give them my phone number. I would always like get their Instagram, but never give them mine so I could check them out, because I think like you can tell a lot. Like even if a guy's not active, you can see who they follow. And if it's a bunch of chicks, like the bikini OnlyFans models, you're like, okay. But I think it's very telling what they kind of put up and who they follow. And then you kind of can like keep that if you need to. And I would always tell someone, and I'd be like, this is the person. I would always send a photo through being like, this is the person I'm going out with and I'm going here.
Totally.
And like, I just wouldn't give, and I'd never ever let them pick me up from my house. I'd never let them know where like I lived. When they asked me, oh, like, you know where you live, which is like a general, like sort of, if especially if you're going off the app, I would just give them like a generalized suburb. Like, and it wouldn't be mine. It would be like the suburb next to me, because I'm like, I'm not even like, because you just don't know. Like, you have to be careful. And I would always meet them in a busy place where I would meet them there and I would drive. I'd never ever would like let them pick me up or anything like that, because you just got to be careful when you're a woman.
Absolutely. Like I recently went on a date with an actual nice person, and he shocking. Just wait, something will happen soon. Next episode of the podcast, something will happen.
I remember when I was dating Che, because he was so nice. I was like, I remember I was talking to my housemate at the time, being like, there must be something wrong because he's just too nice. Because I had dated that many assholes that I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, there must be something wrong with him. Like, and I remember I nearly broke up with him because I was like, nah, he's too nice. Like, something's going on. Turns out nothing. He's just a generally good person.
Yeah, that's it. Like, this guy actually, which was so thoughtful, and I've never had someone offer this. He's like, hey, don't tell me your address, just meet me. You can tell me your street, you can meet me somewhere, and I'll come pick you up. I was like, that is so considerate, but so sad that that's where dating is at these days. I think, Sheri, you know a bit of this story, but I will preface this one saying I was not innocent in it all. I fucked up too. So I feel like this man would tell this story about me and I would be the red flag, but, you know, jury's
Is it the piss the pants man?
Yeah, it's the piss the pants man. It's the piss the pants man, which I didn't even think, like, now that it happened a while ago, I was like, that's not even that wild. And then when I tell other people about it, they're like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, I'll spin this yarn as best as I can. And I'll be very honest about the things I did that were wrong. So I'd just come out of a really terrible relationship with a man that was like a gaslighter, dickhead, cosplaying as a nice person. So I was like, I'd just come out of something pretty average. And I met someone who I'd sort of had a bit of a connection with in the past. And we hit it off. We'd been on a few dates. So this was we'd been hanging out a bit, but we hadn't gone out on a lot of like proper dates. Like I would say your classic go out for dinner and drinks date. So this was the first date of that sort of vein of things, and we were definitely into each other. And I think because I'll own all my parts of this. I think because I'd just come out of a relationship, well, not just, I'd been out of a relationship for a bit. It's almost like we went in really hard and fast, which now I will never do that again because I've learnt my fucking lesson.
You say that now.
I am. I'm sticking to it. I think that, like, the guy that I've been on dates with, he said to me the other day, I don't even know if you like me.
That's what Andrew said to me.
Because I'm like, I'm taking it fucking slow. I can't be trusted.
Yeah. He sat me down and I thought he was going to like break up with me, and he's like, I can't tell if you're interested in me. And I was like, Of course I am. Why are you always over? Like, to me, it's obvious. I would not be inviting you over to my house if I was not interested in you. And he's
Yes.
like, well, because you don't really say anything, to that. And I
Yes.
was just like, isn't it obvious? Apparently
Yeah.
not.
See, that's exactly it. So I am sticking to the plan, or else Satisfy Pro on the robot vacuuming. Or you know what? AI is getting pretty fucking good. I could chat GPTs out there writing stuff. I just could wait.
Just get your emotional connection from
yes,
AI.
chat GPT, or just wait for AI to get good enough that I can date it. Like I think there is AI that you can date out there now.
Oh,
So
mate,
that's
there's
where I'm
people
at.
that date pillows. So
Like, I honestly am at the point in life where
wasn't
dating
there a lady
AI,
that married the Eiffel Tower?
yeah,
Like,
that could be me. And yeah, so I was thinking, and I love that Labrador energy. Like AI could be for me. Anyways, so we'd gone out on this great. I digress. We'd gone out on this date. It was actually a fucking stellar date. We had so much fun. However, I was really stressed at work, and it was during a time at work. I don't know how you handle stress, but when I'm super stressed, I forget to eat. Like I can't eat. Like I just forget about it. So I pretty much, and I am a lightweight on drinking, anyways, and which I've only just recently realized because I'm not belligerently drinking, and I have like a bloody champagne. I'm like, woo, this is what people are talking about instead of just bloody smashing the bloody vodka sodas. Anyways, so we both got pretty pissed, but I definitely was the more pissed of the party. Which is funny
I
because
do
then
like drunk Samara.
someone got pissed in. Anyways, we came back to my place. We're playing some board games, and I just was pretty drunk and decided at that point I'm just going to declare my love for this person, which is so
How many
bad.
weeks?
Not many. Like, and I'm like this. I want to say it's a Pisces thing, but maybe I'm just a fucking psycho. Like, I don't know. And I look back on it, it's like my skin is crawling. I did not know this person. I just like was dating a vision of them in my head that I'd made up. And as I say, I'm owning all parts of my story, my bits in this. So I declared my love for this person.
I do remember when you first told me, like, because we were at an event and you're like, oh, I'm going on a date with this guy, but I'm going to take it slow. And then I remember the next time I saw you, like, so something happened. And I was like, oh, I thought we were taking it slow.
We didn't. It's like 30 seconds later. Are you feeling this? Am I feeling this? Oh my God, this is amazing. Let's be best friends. Let's get matching tattoos. I did get a matching tattoo with a guy after 3 dates. This one.
No.
Yes.
I feel like there's a pattern of behavior.
I know, it's me. I'm the red flag. I'm owning the shit. Anyways, he declared the love, and he honestly, give it to him, he was very responsible. Like he could have just like let me down the garden path, but he was like, hey, we don't know each other. You've just come out of something. Let's just not. And then I had a bit of a temper tantrum because I was like, you don't love me. You don't care for me. And
Well,
then
yeah, because it's been like 3 weeks.
yes, yeah, you don't know me. Anyways, I started because I drank heaps. Of course, I needed to start vomiting, and I'm like vomiting red wine everywhere at my house. Thank God it was at my house. Maybe thank God. Anyways, he's like holding my hair, and I'm like vomiting, carrying on like an absolute pork chop, and we went to bed, and that was it. We sort of left it at that. And the next morning I woke up and I felt so bad. Like the post drinking guilt was so bad. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Did the oh fuck, I'm gonna get a talking to, or they're just not gonna talk to me again ever. Anyways, we're laying in my bed, and he was pretty chill about it, to be honest. Maybe he just like emotionally checked out. He was like, fuck.
He's like, I'm not seeing this one again.
Yeah, fuck her. Anyways, I was in my bed, and all of a sudden I like started touching it, and I realized it was wet. I was like, fuck. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, did we have sex last night and it got like real wild? Like, what is happening here? So yeah, no, he immediately knew. He was like, pissed your bed. He like immediately knew. And you know what? I've never been so grateful for someone to piss in my bed because it took the heat off my fucking performance the night before. If you've, carried on a little bit, but someone pisses in your bed, all is forgotten and forgiven.
All bets
Oh,
are
it
off.
was just, it was a
All bets are
bloody
off.
silver lining or a golden
It's like,
lining.
you vomited last night, yeah, but at least I did it in the toilet.
And I didn't piss in someone's bed, which it was the biggest piss. And it was like, he honestly must have been really dehydrated as well. Anyways, it was enormous. He did a good solid thing and like cleaned it up, which was like, oh, that's really nice. And because my bed was wet,
Is that really a solid thing, or is that just like what you do when you pee in someone else's bed?
maybe that's
Like-
it. The bar is so low that like me thinking a guy cleaning up his own piss in my bed is like a green flag.
To me, I'm like, that's the basic. That's the bare minimum you do when you wet someone else's bed is you clean it up.
Yeah. Well, he did it. And he like, honestly, he did some extra vacuuming as well. I was like,
If anything, he should have been like, okay, cool, I'm going to buy a pair of new sheets. Like,
no, there was none of that. There was fucking none of that. But what he did do is he let me sleep at his house the next day because my bed was wet because
he pissed in it.
I know. I can't even put it. Well, I could put it on marketplaces, like once pissed in bed. And now all my friends send me pictures of mattresses they see on the side of the street, being like, "Do you want
Cleaner than yours?
Do you want this?" I'm like, oh fuck. And then, he did me a solid and let me sleep at his bed the next night, and then we just never spoke again.
Yeah.
He went on a run, and you know what? Legend says he's still running somewhere. Maybe he just never stopped running.
Yeah, unless you're like super keen on the person, it's kind of like, oh, look, this is where we're going to jump ship. This is where we're cutting ties, bailing.
I think it was just a mutual thing. Like for me, I was like, I've behaved a bit erratically, and I need to take a good hard look at myself. And he probably was like, fuck that. Like, where do we go from here? Like, shit in your hands and clap, and it's the next step.
Yeah, I think when it's like such early days too, you're like, yeah, let's just cut ties, let's bail. Like, it's early days. Neither one of us, except for Samara, is that committed.
Oh, I was at a barbecue the next week saying to my friends, oh, should I message him? And they're like, no, fuck no.
I remember you told me, and
I
you
was
were like,
this is so weird. Like, we had this connection. And we're like, absolutely not. No.
yeah, I remember you telling me, and I was like, look, sometimes you just date people and it burns hot for a bit and it fizzles out fast. And that is this.
That fire got pissed on. Got over my ex real quick. Forgot about him. Fucking hooroo. Didn't give a shit about him anymore. So that was like my sort of two stories. I do have one last one. Someone wrote this into me. She is an absolute legend, and I hope I do her story justice. So she's recently separated, absolutely drop dead, stunningly gorgeous girl, a 10 out of 10, an 11 out of 10, I would say. Recently, and I guess when you're this hot, this happens. This never has happened to me. But she bought some stuff off Facebook Marketplace. The person she bought it off dropped it over to her place. And afterwards, I always find when I buy stuff off Facebook Marketplace, they're always fucking weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest weird people. Like, it's like all the odd units, and maybe that's who this person is. Anyways, he sent her a message after dropping off the furniture and said, hey, I think you're really hot. I would love to take you out. So she's like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. I'm, got to get back out there. I'm noticing a pattern in our stories. It's all like recently single, something fucking dramatic happens. So she goes out on a date. They organise a time. They go to a microbrewery. She said he rocked up and he was already slurring his words a bit. He was maybe, had a few beers on the job site that afternoon.
Sometimes, like, a little bit of liquid courage, but you don't want to be slurring your words.
Anyway, she's a bit pissed. They're at the microbrewery, and she said he was smashing the beers. Like, he was going hell for leather. So the date was a microbrewery and then stand-up comedy. What could go wrong? Which actually sounds like a very fun day.
Yeah, like, I'd be really keen on that day. Also, too, like, getting to know someone's, like, humour, because humour's very, like, subjective. So getting to know someone's humour, if that lines up with you, like...
Yes. So she did that. He was pissed as a fart. He was slurring. He was pretty bloody sloppy. They then stumbled into stand-up comedy, and he was still carrying on. He then asked the stand-up comedy person if he could have the mic.
No, it's
And
not going.
he-
It
you
will
know
nah.
what? We've all gotten a bit pissed and thought we were funnier than the bloke.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the one that thinks that they can dance a lot better than what they can.
Yes.
You know, when you feel like you're breaking down and you're busting out some really killer moves, and if someone filmed you and showed you back, you'd be like, fucking hell. You
Yeah.
know, you're white girl wasted, but you feel like you are the, like, you know, you could be on Dancing with the Stars with the moves you're busting out.
That's exactly it. So he has turned up.
Maybe girls get like the dance moves and then guys think they're funnier. So, like, we think we're better dancing and guys think they're a lot funnier than what they are.
Or they the punch ons.
Yeah.
That's the other thing they do. Anyways, so he's jumped on stage and he thinks he's killing it, but she said he wasn't killing it at all. Everyone in the crowd was just heckling him because he was just, terrible up there. So she was mortified sitting at her chair. It's a first date, probably quite. I mean, it's already cringy enough when you're out on a first date and people know it's a first date around you. This bloke's on stage carrying on like a pork chop, and people were heckling him. He then, like, when he started to get a bit offended, like, as a comedian, you can't get offended. You've just got to roll with the punches. He's not a comedian. He's a drunk bloke on stage. She said he just started attacking people's, like, their appearance.
That's because, like, men who say they're not emotional are the ones that are, like, the most emotional. And they're a bit freaking sensitive that
Yeah.
they can't really handle, like, the criticism. It's like you put yourself up on stage,
Yep.
you took someone's mic. What do you think was going to happen? You're
Yep.
not a professional comedian, but yet
You're doing that.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. So he then had done that. He'd carried on very poorly. Someone said something about her being his date or his girlfriend. He's like, no, she's nothing to me. And like, so started on her then. And she just got up from her seat. And, by the way, she's handled herself with absolute grace throughout this whole day. That is a catastrophe. She's gotten up and all of a sudden people are clapping for her because she's gotten up. She's said, fuck you, see you later, gone to go out the door and people are cheering and laughing. And she was like, and that's the most laughs you're going to get for your stand up, mate. And as soon as she's like, I was a badass. As soon as I got out of that door, I sprinted to my car. I've never run as fast as Usain Bolt, straight to the car.
she broke a world record.
Yeah, locked the doors and sped home. But isn't that? I mean, people off Marketplace, you can't trust them in the first place.
Yeah, no.
So that poor chick, man.
You know who gets a lot of action? Removalists. Chaga was telling me all, because my boyfriend used to be a removalist. He would tell me all the time the women that he would move houses for would hit on them. And like a lot of the single guys would get action that way. And I'm like, well, I guess they spend all day with you. You're moving their things. They, get to chat to you a bit. But yeah, he was like, one day he's like, how do I kind of let them know that I have a girlfriend, but without saying, I have a girlfriend? And I was like, oh, just like drop me in the conversation being like, oh, that's a really nice bed. My girlfriend has one just like that. But yeah, no, apparently removalist. If you want to get some action and you're a guy, be a removalist, because apparently non-stop getting hit on by the ladies that they move houses for. And like so many times he's like, oh, I've turned down, and then they don't care who it is. They're just keen on one of the guys.
Wow. So also, I think as somebody, like, at least with a removalist, they can pick you up and throw you around.
And they've got
you've seen them carry your bed downstairs. You know that they've got some guns and they can get it sorted out. So
yeah, but apparently it was always like, oh, after they've done, oh, I've got some wine. Would you want to stay and have a drink? And oh, could you help me put my bed together? Apparently that's the line that so many ladies use.
I mean, getting the bed put together is a pain in the ass. So
yeah, so
Jeez Louise. Well, I'll end my sesh on a really kind of wholesome one I found on Reddit because I thought it can't be all bad. I'll kick it off. It's a Reddit user called Ironstones. And I'll read it away. I went out with this girl to a nice Japanese restaurant. I got there first and waited for her at the bar. She walked in, saw me, and walked out immediately without saying a word. I went inside and asked if she was okay, and she told me I can't really be in here right now. We went to an Irish pub instead and had some very awkward small talk with long silences. After about 45 minutes, I told her that it was pretty clear that it wasn't going to work and we didn't have to stay. We could just go. I took her back to where her car must have been parked at his house. So I took her back to her car parked at my house and we said goodnight. Right before I opened the door to leave, she asked if I wanted to get a drink at the bar across the street. I said, yeah, sure. We ended up having a great time, got hammered, went back to my place, and had brain melting sex. I've been married to this girl for 10 years now. She had some pretty serious anxiety issues that come and go, and for whatever reason, at those first two places, the crowd and atmosphere was really setting off her anxiety, and she needed some space to recover. Isn't that so
That
wholesome?
is wholesome. I thought for a second like there was going to be like an ex that was in the bar and that's why she needed to leave.
No, she was just like a bit anxious, and yeah, they hit it off. 10 years married. I was like, oh, I'm a bit anxious. That gives us all a little bit of hope there. It happens. See, goes to show. Look, everyone's got a chance there. I thought that was really wholesome. I was like, oh, that's. I was trawling through. I've heard all these fucking terrible dating stories and all my terrible dating stories, and then I found that one. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes there is a silver lining. So I think like out of our friend group, I'm the one that's known to have like these notoriously bad dates. Like I've just got some like crackers of stories. Like there was just this time like a year where I just went on nothing but bad dates and they were always like it never got to the 2 date point. Like I never passed that. And I remember being like at a point being like if I go on one more bad date, that's it. I'm moving overseas because clearly Brisbane is not my dating pool. And then I obviously meet Chiego, that's Brazilian. So I was like, yeah, I was right. But I like literally just went through that time. Like it gave me some really great stories to tell. Like, they're all learning opportunities, but oh my God, some of them were awful. I remember I went on a date with a guy and it was going okay. And I mentioned the fact that I had like ADHD and I'm dyslexic. And he kind of asked a few questions about that. And then after that, I remember him just being like really sort of standoffish. And we kind of wrapped the day up. And he said to me at the end, look, I'm going to be honest with you. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he was like, I'm just not interested in dating a girl with disabilities.
wow.
Yeah, I was like, you know what?
What were the aforementioned? What did he just like the ADHD?
Yeah. Because I said, oh, it is classed as like I am technically
Yeah.
classed as disabled, like, neurodiverse. I don't feel like I am. Like, I'm just, have strengths, have weaknesses, just like everyone else. But honestly, I was kind of like, thank you for saying that because you've just outed yourself as an asshole and you've just saved me a lot of time. So, you know what? Other people would be like, oh, fuck, that's a bit like brutal to say. But you've just saved me from wasting time. And like, I now know where you are and that's not what I want.
What a dude. Oh. Do you ever know what happened to him?
Oh
Just
no,
never
after that,
spoke
like
to
it was
him
literally
again?
just like a drink at a bar sort of date. When I was like dating, I used to love just setting up like really short, like either coffee dates or
Yeah.
like a drink at a bar date, just because if it went well from there, you could then either get food or go somewhere. But if it wasn't, you only had like that sort of short period of time where you could bail. Like, anytime I like set up something longer for a first date, it always was terrible. And then I was like, I'm stuck here for this period of time. At least if it's a coffee, once you finish your coffee, you can, like, you've got the reason to go.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be the whole, like, sitting there for a few hours while you have dinner or while you do this sort of activity. Oh, my God. Another date I went on, or went well. He was a very good looking dude. We seemed to have a good conversation. At the end of the day, he goes, oh, I'd like to see you again. I said, yeah, that's cool. We had each other on Instagram. A few days later, I messaged him because, just hadn't heard it. I was like, oh, would you like to go on that date again? Because I'm like, women, we should also be putting ourselves out there
Absolutely.
asking, and then he just says, oh, no, sorry, I've changed my mind. And I said to him, that's completely fine, and left it at that. I then unfollowed him because I was like, well, why would I keep following him on Instagram? Like, what's the point? Um,
Oh, actually, I remember this story.
yes.
Oh.
He must have just seen that I unfollowed him, and he was the kind of guy that was clearly trying to build an Instagram sort of profile, like be someone on social media. He then sends me a message, and I thought that was it. I just said, yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to try to convince someone to date me, like, for the reason, if you've made your decision, you've made your decision. He's obviously clearly seen that, and then sent me another message being like, oh, just to let you know, I feel like your photos on your Hinge profile are really deceptive and you are a lot chubbier in person than you are in real life. And that's just really misleading. And I kind of wasted my time there.
The annoying part of this story, because I know this story now that you mention it, is it wasn't that you'd just gone on one. I thought you'd seen him a couple of times. It's not like he'd just seen
No, we'd
him.
only been on one
Or
date.
was it only one date? Yeah, it's not like he wanted a second date.
Yeah, he said it to me on the date. And like sometimes you do say that as like you're not really sure how to end the date. So you're like, oh yeah, well, like this is nice, we'll do it again. And then you just kind of don't. And
Yeah.
that's fine. But you don't need to put that in. And I kind of feel like he kind of was like, his ego was slightly hurt because I just accepted it and wasn't like, oh, why? Or, you know, I was just like, yeah, that's cool. Because like for me, I'm like, you either like me or you don't. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I shouldn't have to convince you. And I feel like because I didn't kind of, I probably came off as I didn't care. His ego was hurt, so he felt like putting that little jab in.
Just a big man baby.
Mhm.
That is just, but your like date stories, like that's fucking mean. It's lucky you are a tough chick because like if someone like, depending on what day of the week, if someone said something like that to me, I'd be like, holy fuck. But like at least you can see that that is just someone reacting from their own ego being hurt. And he lost a fault. Like, why? What are you gonna do? Like, if I am dating someone and stop and like, there's no purpose in passively following each other's lives. Like, it's cool,
Like
you know.
one day, like why would I keep
Yeah.
following you? But one of the worst but best stories I have was I went on a date with this guy. I've told you about this one. It's the one where I end up kicking him at the end. We matched on Hinge and we decided to meet up. I just suggested the bar. He was not from Brisbane. He's just moved here. And so I was like, oh, we'll just go to this bar. You know, it's a nice bar, it does some cool drinks, and they've also got some like arcade games and stuff that you can play. So I thought, oh, if it's going well, we could play some games, or it's near food places so we can go and get like food. I did not know at the time that because he said he lived like in Brisbane. He actually lived on the Sunshine Coast and he was from Tasmania and just moved up to the Sunshine Coast. So I didn't realise at the time that he had driven like an hour and something for this date. Like he never mentioned any of that. And I always drive to my dates and I will only ever have like a drink because I'm going to be driving myself home because it's like that's my thing. I don't, you know. But so we have a drink and then he's like, it started off really well. Like, you know, we're having good banter and I was like, oh, like this seems to be going genuinely well. Like he seems to be funny. And at one stage in the date, he refers to himself as a 10. And I thought when he did that, like the first time, I was like, haha, funny. Like back yourself. You've got to be confident. Like why would you want someone, you know, to be interested in you if you're not backing yourself? So I was like, you know, props for you. Self-love. Got to back yourself. But I thought it was a joke. He was dead serious. Dead serious. And like, let me tell you, he was not taller than me, so there's no way he's a 10. I'm sorry. But a 10 is like Henry Cavill, Jason Momoa, like the a 10 is like 100% perfection. You know?
Yeah, and you know,
there's a rare few people that are a 10.
Yeah, and I think funny you should say something about the height thing. My sister is quite tall, and she said, I never realised, I think Jamie's maybe 5'8", around there. And she said, I never realised how many men lie. Like, a woman 5'8" and a man 5'8" is different because she's had so many guys say, oh, yeah, I'm 5'8" as well. And she'll rock up and be wearing, like, flat shoes and be taller than them. Like, oh, different measurements for different people, which is such a... I mean, I'm very short, so it's never been a problem for me. But, yeah, something that does actually come up. So keep on going about this 10.
Yeah, but guys, it's like you always take, like, what is it? Take a foot off their height, and that's what they actually are.
Jeez, like, yeah.
But yeah, so he says, you know what? He goes, makes a joke about him being a 10, and I was like, yeah, cool, funny joke. Like, you know, back yourself. Good on you. And then, you know, he's drinking more, and I've only got, like, you know, I've had my one drink, and I've switched over to, like, soft drink. And he kept trying to, like, pressure me to drink more, and I'm like, no, like, I'm good, like, you know. And then we start getting on the conversation about work and he's, you know, moved up for work and he's like, oh, kind of like, what do you do? And I said, oh, like, you know, I teach art, plus I do like a little bit of social media. And he goes, like, you know, okay, cool. We're talking about different places in Brisbane and he says, oh, what's Love and Rockets? And I say, oh, that's a strip club, like, you know. And we go on about that. And he goes, oh, how do you know so much about this place? And I was like, well, I used to work there. Like, you know, I was a house mum there. And he's like, oh, so you used to dance there, you were a stripper? And I said, no. Like, I would be 100% honest with you if I was a stripper. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I just worked there. I worked there for 2 years and I looked after the girls basically. And then he kind of made a few jokes about me doing OnlyFans because, like, obviously I said I do social media and I used to work there. And at the start I was like, oh, yeah, funny, like, yeah, OnlyFans. And, like, at the start, you know, the jokes are funny. But then it started to turn where he started to do, like, that dating thing where he, like, they neggle you, where they purposely, like, are trying to insult you to kind of bring your confidence down. And then, so he just kept having, like, these little, like, jabs at me. And I was just like, yeah, okay. Like, and it was obviously, like, the more he drank, the meaner he was getting. And
what an awful situation to be in. Like, that makes my blood boil.
But yeah, I was like, I've already made my decision. Like, this is not going any further than this, but I'm not going to let him off easy. I was like, I'm going to give it back to him because I don't give a shit if he likes me or not because this is not happening again. So I was like, when he referred to himself once again as a 10, because he originally said, oh, when I was in Tasmania, everyone told me the girls in Queensland were just going to be so much hotter, but I just don't see that. Clearly a go at me. And I was like, and then he's like, you know, because it's really hard to be like a 10. And I was like, yeah, maybe a Tassie 10, like you ain't a Queensland 10, which his face just looked like I'd smacked him across it. I don't think he was used to anyone ever giving him the same shit back. And he was like, oh, whatever. And then said to me, oh, what tattoos do you have? Because he clearly had tattoos. And I said, oh, I've got 2 tattoos. They're just small ones. Like, I just kind of got them, like, on a whim. And he's like, let me guess, they're really basic bitch tattoos. Like, they're going to be an animal or a flower. And I was like...
I bet you he had shit tattoos. Were they shit tattoos?
And I said, yeah, they are. I'm like, they are. It's a flower and a bee. But I'm
so
like...
fucking what?
But I'm like...
I want to bash him. I want to kick him now.
I said, that's a bit rich coming from you with Chinese writing on your neck. What's that say? Honey soy?
So, because was he Chinese?
No. He was Australian. And he's like, oh, don't say that. That's so rude. I was like, you literally just said my tattoos were basic bitch tattoos and you cannot take it back. And I'm sorry, but I thought my comeback was pretty funny. Like... I'm like, you literally have Chinese writing on your neck. Like,
honestly, people in glass houses can't be throwing stones.
I know.
Man. And, like, the Tassie 10 thing, that is real. Like, I was in Tassie last year. I had a great time. I fucking love Tasmania. It is the best place to go. Go there with someone you're in love with. It's a great time. And my ex got chased down the street. Like, I thought there was going to be a fight. It was when we first got to Tasmania. We're walking down the street. Someone was like yelling at us from the TAB. He's like, oi, you. I was like, oh, the Queenslander in me is like, oh, here we go, scraps on. And it was this drunk dude, and this was like maybe 10 a.m. He's like, you're a good-looking bloke. You're a good-looking bloke. And, like, he was fine, I guess. But, yeah, the Tassie 10 is alive. And I said that. I was like, oh, you're a Tassie 10, babes. So, yeah. Anyways, get back in. I digress.
But yeah, so he was kind of like getting like more and more worked up. And then instead of it like kind of like, you know, having a little bit of banter back and forth where you're kind of having like subtle digs, he was just started to go in.
It's being mean.
He started to be like, oh, you know, OnlyFans, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look.
Fuck off. So what if...
Yeah.
I mean, you don't, but...
We
love sex workers. Yeah. We love dancers. We love all of that. Just fuck off.
I see nothing wrong with it. And I'm like, dude, I would just be honest. Like, I've already told you I used to work at a strip club. Like, why would I just not say the rest of it? And, like, why would I hide that? Because if I did want this to be anything serious, like, I would want someone that would be okay with that. I wouldn't want someone that would judge me or anything like that. But, yeah, he just couldn't, like, let that go. And I'm like, clearly you have some issues that you dated someone that worked on OnlyFans or you fell in love with someone or whatever.
Just an incel or straight up.
Yeah, like, you've got some issues. And then he's drinking so much, and he then tells me, he's like, oh, yeah, I drove in, and, like, you know, I'm Sunny Coast, like, where do you live? And I was like, oof. I'm like, good luck. Like, have fun sleeping in your car tonight. But basically, he just wasn't getting, like, the vibe that I was like, I am out. And as soon as, like, we were leaving, because I'm like, this has been awful. Like, you've just been so rude. We're leaving, and he goes to try to, like, kiss me, but he puts his, like, arm around my neck and try to pull me in, and I was like, read the room, buddy. Like, did you not get that I'm not? Him? No, because I literally, so I've done different mixed martial arts, different fighting styles for, like, 8 years or something now. So I ended up just doing, like, a really small, like, Krav Maga move on his neck where I pushed him back and, like, flicked in here, and it made him, like, jump back and like cough because it's very sensitive there. And he coughs, and it just seems like in his head, he didn't get that someone could possibly be rejecting him. So he didn't think that I literally like pushed him away. He just goes and comes back and tries to kiss me again. And that's where I kick him back so hard he falls flat on his ass. And he's like, what the fuck? The security guard, mind you, sees all of this. And the security guard like was coming to help me and then was like, stopped himself and was like, nah, you've got this. You're okay.
Isn't that like lucky you can handle yourself? Because that is actually like such a violation of your boundaries. Like, oh my God.
Someone's just
Did you just leave him?
Yeah, I walked off. I was like, I don't fucking care. Like, I left him. I'm like, you can sort your shit out. But, like, I just remember being like, God, like, it was like he had, like, just no one has ever said no to him. And so the possibility that someone said no to him, or, like, the fact that I was like, could you not get that I was not interested because I started to, like, kind of, like, give shit back to you? Because I was like, no, I'm going to give it back and then I'm out just to take you down a peg.
Jesus. So, never heard from him again?
No. He even messaged me the next day.
What did he say?
Wanting to go on another date.
Wow.
And I had, like, already taken him off, you know, Hinge and all of that. I don't reply to him. Then months later, he's obviously set up a new one. He pops back up, tries to match back with me.
Wow. So
the
he's still out there.
audacity.
He's still out there.
Oh, I don't know if he's
bumping around.
been snatched up now, but...
Oh, my God.
I was just like, oh, my God, the audacity of some men.
Well, I hope I don't date him. That's what I have to say about that.
Oh, if you ever see a guy with some Chinese writing on your neck, run.
I don't bloody date him. That's what I have to say there. It looks like I'm sucking back on straight vodka, but, you know.
It's just water.
It's just water. And honestly, I'd love to be a Frank Green girly, but inflation is real. This is recycling, people. This is...
You're eco-conscious.
Yes. Sucking back on an old Absolute vodka bottle is just me doing my bit for the environment.
Okay, so this one is off Our Dating, and it's a subreddit on Reddit. And this one starts off, I had the worst day of my entire life. Same here.
Right.
I feel ya.
Strong start.
Yeah.
Kick off.
I, 29 female, met this guy, 32 male on Hinge. That's where you... That's
Hinge is unhinged, mate.
Yeah, that's your first mistake.
Unhinged.
We were talking for about a week. He lived an hour away from me, so we were trying to plan our first date. We spent a lot of time on the phone, had some FaceTime dates, and I was really feeling him. Like, I feel like she kind of did put some, like, preemptive steps to make sure before she went on a date it was, like, a genuinely decent guy. Like, the FaceTime. Like, it wasn't just a completely cold...
At that point in time, I'd have imagined tattoos.
Like, she put a little bit of groundwork in to try to suss him out. And obviously, so far, he was seeming quite good. He was handsome and fit, with a good job, no kids that I was aware of, which is rare enough. Eventually, he asked me to the botanical gardens to look at the Christmas lights at night, which was another hour from me, but 2 hours away from him. When he showed up to pick me up, he had 2 babies in the car. He tells me he lied to me and that he is a father.
Okay, right.
So you started this relationship off strong with some good lies. Like,
fucking hell, that's a...
I don't feel like, why? How did you think you'd get around that?
The babies at the... She pushing a pram. Anyways, we'll see. Go on.
He tells me he lies to me and that he is a father. I got so mad, but felt obligated to proceed with the date since he had just driven an hour to see me with these kids. So we got the whole extra hour out, and I'm still mad and I'm not really talking much. The babies are 6 and 4, so I think they're not really babies, they're like kids. We get out there, and when everyone got out of the car, I noticed his daughter wasn't dressed at all for this occasion. It was cold and it was nighttime, and he had her in a t-shirt and bike shorts with mismatching socks on and mismatching ballerina slippers, and her curly mixed hair was not done at all, and she looked like she had just rollen out of bed and he had just brought her here. I was like, what the fuck? I felt embarrassed because I know people that would look at me thinking I was her mother and wondering how I could leave her in this hot mess of a state while I'm looking so cute rocking my Gucci's, but this child doesn't even have a jacket. So we go into the garden and his kids start throwing the biggest tantrum over normal basic childcare needs like, we are hungry, Dad, we have not eaten in hours, we are thirsty, we are cold, and I was like, what the fuck? He didn't even have supplies for them in the car for this 2-hour road trip he's just brought them on. And the whole time they're suffering, he wants me to be all up on him and ignoring the fact that he's got 2 babies that are hungry with him. I also noticed when he got close to me, he was reeking of tequila, which I didn't notice before in the car. Now they're yelling at him, "I hate you, Dad," and telling me they don't like me. I'm sitting there like, look, I'm with you all. I'm hating your daddy too.
Any guy can be a dad, but not every guy can be a daddy.
Yeah.
And the special
Definitely.
ones get the daddy. Oh dear. So that's it?
No. There is
Oh,
more. There
excellent.
is more.
Revolt on dad. Join the kids, sis.
The place that we were at too had no food anywhere, so there was nowhere that I could buy them a drink or no little stores that I could get them a jacket, and I was ready to go. So we're leaving and it's late, like 10 p.m. at night. Having kids out at like 10 p.m. at night, jeez. Like, surely, could you not have arranged this date when, like, clearly you're single father, when the mum's got the kids?
It just sounds like a hot mess. It sounds like he's just so unaware.
Yeah, like,
and selfish. That is so fucking selfish.
maybe he didn't even realize it was his weekend for the kids because he's that freaking, like, all about himself. And then the kids
Call
are just
the
there and
date
he's
off.
like, well, this is what we're doing. You're not cock blocking me, children.
No, that's horrid.
And I don't know how he thought, like, it would end well. Like, you think going into a situation where you've lied about having kids and you're reeking of tequila, you're not looking after your kids, it's not going to go well. You think you would just know off the bat, like...
You never know what level of audacity is at, and he probably just thought, I'm hot and I'm a 10.
The audacity of men.
I'm a 10. She won't be able to resist me. Yeah, right. Kick on. Kick on.
So we're leaving and it's late, like 10 p.m. We drive off past all the city driving for like 20 minutes, didn't stop once to feed these kids. So he's probably driving past Macca's, like literally, and doesn't even get them anything. Oh, and he can't drive. He starts swerving all over the road like he is drunk. And then guess what happens? We're on the bridge and he runs out of gas.
Can she just get out an Uber? What'd she do? How do you get yourself out of... See, when I think I've had a bad date, it's never been like that. Like, that is, like, I've never been, like, stuck somewhere fucking cooked. So, anyways, go on.
Who runs out of gas? Like, who runs out of petrol? Like, there's a little freaking... It beeps at you. Your cars beep at you when you're getting low. Like...
Dad, who's been on the bots all arvo, is fucking running out of petty.
Like, it's not surprising.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't just sneak up on you.
No.
I couldn't believe it. I thought running out of gas was something you did when you were between 16 and 19 years old. We sat there, the kids whining, him throwing an anger fit at himself, me texting my sister to come get me, where we sat 45 minutes. Eventually, a nice person stopped and gave me some gas. We drove to the nearest gas station. The kids are asleep. I run into the gas station because I'm also hungry and buy some snacks while I think he's filling up the car. The line was long and I was probably in the store for about 10 minutes. When I came out, he was standing by the pump and got mad when he saw I didn't pay for the petrol. Because I think in, like, America, you pay for it first and you say how much you want to pay for, and then they they unlock the thing so you can put petrol in.
Yeah.
Other way around, because obviously they don't trust people over there.
Yeah, fair, right.
It's no honor system over there.
Yeah.
When I came out, he was standing by the pump and got mad when he saw, and I said, "What's wrong?" for walking into the store, and he said, "I needed to pay for gas." So I was like, what the fuck did he expect me to do? Like, fill his tank up? He pays and gets some gas, and then we go on our way. He's swerving like crazy. Like, honestly, there was no way I would hop back in a car. No fucking way.
Uber.
I would have also called the cops on him. And he's got kids in the car.
He's drink driving, that, yeah.
Like, no fucking way. When you guys got to that petrol station, like, I wouldn't have hopped back into the car when you're at the Botanical Gardens as soon as you realised he was drunk. I would have said, "Give me the keys, I'll drive."
Yep.
But there is no way, like, after that would you be like, shit, he's driving all over the road, but I'll still stay in the car. I would pay. I don't care if it was a freaking $100 Uber. I'm paying that. Like, he pays and gets the gas, and we're in his car, and he's swerving like crazy now. We get to my house at, like, midnight, and he says his phone is dead. Can he come in and charge it? I didn't give a fuck, but I felt bad for the kids, so I said, "Okay, you can come in and use the charger." This man came inside and fell straight asleep on my couch. I had to put his kids from the back of his car asleep in my... He left the kids in the car. Asleep in my guest room. I went to my room and I just stayed up all night because I didn't want him in my house. Once 6 a.m. I woke him up, told him to get his ass up and go. Those poor kids were still crying because they were asking me if I had cereal. They still hadn't eaten. I'm sorry, but she needs to take some ownership for this part.
Yeah.
There would be no way.
I would call the police.
Yeah,
I would not have.
And I would have made sure I fed them.
What about the child's, like, mother? I would have, I mean, it's not her fault, like, we're not victim blaming here, but, like, she's an adult. Call the police. This is an unsafe situation for kids, man. Like,
yeah, there's a time when it's like you have to put yourself like, okay, yeah, it's an uncomfortable situation, but he could seriously hurt those kids.
Yeah.
So like there's sometimes you got to put yourself in like uncomfortable situations and like this has just so happened to you and you need to do the right thing. Those poor kids were still trying to eat. They were asking me if I had cereal, so I gave them some granola bars and said bye. Best believe he got blocked and I shut the door.
I love dating the dads. I'm going to say that. I fucking love it. They have the best snacks at their house. I am this close to just hanging around with my friends who have children's their school fates just to meet the hot single dads. But this sounds like a hot fucking mess. That is nasty. What do the comments say? I can see you got some comments up.
A lot of them are basically just saying like call child protective services.
Yeah,
like
dob him in. And if they've got they will have a mother. Imagine how that poor woman feels.
And
fucking God.
A lot of people are kind of like on the same boat that we're on, where it's like, dude, why did you hop back in the car after you knew he had to was drinking? Yeah. And why did you like just not call the cops? Like, you know, like this is.
It's beyond being just a funny yarn. It's like you've actually got to step up and be a contributing member of society in this situation.
Yeah, and then someone wrote, this is dating 101. I never let the date pick me up from my place. Seldom allow them to drop me off on the first date. Avoiding them knowing where I live and avoiding them being in a potential dangerous situation. It was lucky the kids were there. If he is such a hot mess with them around and obviously doesn't care for the safety or the law, imagine what he would have done if no one was there to hold him accountable. Please stay safe out there. It could have been much worse. Preach. Someone said he's not a father, he's just a sperm donor. That's 100% accurate.
I want to know what happened to him. Has she done an update?
No, there's no updates on this.
Probably because she got shredded.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments just being like, I would have called the police. Like, how could you hop back in a car with someone?
Yeah.
You know, someone wrote, OP needs some tough love and maybe at least a shred of self-respect. Dude showed her immediately on the first date he was a literal red flag by lying to her about his kids. I would have not even gone from there. It does not matter whether he's driven an hour to pick you up. He's literally lied to you about something that big.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got it. I had a dude, and I won't go too rogue. I had a dude, I'm sure I told you about this dude, that picked me up to go on a date down to Topgolf, which, for those of you not from Brisbane, it's...
The one that left the dogs in the car?
Yes! So I went on this... I didn't. The date didn't kind of happen. So what happened is he had a sausage dog and he came and picked me up and we were going to Topgolf. Topgolf has... It's near Movie World. Is it Movie World? And it has a really open car park. And this was the middle of summer. Anyways, I got in the car and the dog was in the car. And immediately, I'm an animal lover. Immediately I was so excited. There's a fucking dog in the car. I'm like having pats and stuff with the dog. And we started sort of driving down the coast and it would have been maybe 45-minute drive. So we're not long into the drive. And I'm like, whoa, are we swinging by your house? Like, cause I thought it was just a smooth move that he had the dog in the car, get me like all excited and stuff.
Yeah, because it's like how guys always have like a dog in one of their photos on their dating profiles and it's hardly ever their dog. But because they know. The bitches love dogs.
The bitches love the bitches. And the dog, I thought, because we'd have to go past his house to get down the coast, in my little lady brain, I was like, oh, we must be swinging by his to drop off the dog. It was just a little bit of a novelty. And then he's like, oh no, the dog's coming with us. And I was like, what? And it was like I had a conniption in that car because I was like, I can't. He's like, yeah, I'll just leave it in the car with the windows down while we play golf. And I was like, it was such a hot, Queensland summer day. So it was in the middle of the day. And he's like, no, it's fine. I do it all the time. And I'm like, why? And he's like, oh, sometimes my neighbours complain about him barking. And I'm like, I cannot chill out while there's this dog in the car. And also, someone's going to smash your window. Like, someone is going to smash your window.
100%.
And because it's just too hot. How can we relax? Anyways, I had so much of a connection.
I don't even like, I get so stressed if I have, like, Coco in the car, and I know I have to just get, like, go to the corner store.
I feel like the biggest piece of shit.
And literally I'm going in to just grab bread or milk, like,
or
something.
Getting petrol or something.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to, like, I'm always like, no, I can't get something on the way home because I've got Coco with me. And, like, yeah, even with petrol and stuff where it's, like, literally, like, I'm literally just going to pay. I'm like, oh, I could not.
I honestly was having a meltdown. It was almost like something broke in my brain. And I wasn't crying, but I was just like, you need to turn around. We need to go back to my house. And he just was not taking no for an answer. He's like, are you ditching our date? And we're like driving down the coast. I'm like, no, I'm not ditching your date. Look, if you want to keep the dog, what we can do, it was when I was living at Bowen Hills, and there was like all these cafes and restaurants around where my home was. I was like, what we can do, my dog's really friendly. We can leave your dog up in my apartment with my dog and just go to one of the restaurants downstairs from my place. He was huffing and puffing. He was so annoyed at me that I had the audacity to protect. I was like, I wanted to go play fucking golf. I didn't want to have to be the responsible person.
It's like, why even have a dog if you're not going to look after it? That's what always gets me when people have pets and they don't look after them.
Shit. Anyways, did that. Went out, and the whole time, like, look, it was such an awkward date. I sculled back the quickest margarita of my life. And I was like, okay, I've got to get an early night. Went back up there. He still went in for the kiss. I was like, and then after that, he's like, oh, you don't ghost me now. And you know what? I could have handled, I'll own this bit. I should have just said to him, hey, I'm not interested. Instead, I was like, fuck this, and just never spoke to him. Then after that, I got heaps of messages because he's like, are you ghosting me? Oh my God, you're ghosting me. Can we go on another date? Like, I should have just like,
I would have,
I should have. And I was like, me now, like I was a lot younger then. Me now, I would have been like, I would have torn him one and given him a good education. Me back then, I was like, man. So, anyways, I digress. Go forth. It looks like you got another juicy one there.
Yeah. Am I the asshole for not paying a bad date back for a meal? So I, 23 male, have been talking to this girl, let's call her Anna, 19 female, for around 2 months. Things were going well, so we decided to go on a date. Anna is quite busy, so it took some time to find a day where she was completely free. There is around a 2-hour train ride in distance between us, which costs about $35 USD each way. It's not going to work. I'm going to stop you there. It's not going to work. You are not going to want to be paying that multiple times a week, and she's not. Unless you are like kindred souls and you're meant to be together, this is not going to work. Do not even bother.
I don't know. I date a lot of people out of town. I mean, I've not painted myself in a great picture this episode. I don't know. Anyways, go on. You got your $70 round trip there. USD. Inflation's a bitch.
Yeah. We planned both arrival and departure time since Anna lives with her parents and staying over wasn't realistic and she probably didn't want me on my first visit to stay over anyway. And she didn't want to...
Consider it that he's not just expecting to stay over.
Yeah, fair enough, because a lot of guys would be like, if I'm traveling this far, like, I'm expecting something. Staying over wasn't realistic, and she didn't want to come and visit my bumpkin area of the part of the country for no particular reason. In hindsight, she probably just didn't want to bother. I feel like if you wanted to, you would, and she didn't, but she was completely fine for you to come and keep her entertained. But if she's not willing to put the same energy in, but she expects that energy back, then there's your answer. Like, you know, if she ain't willing to do that train ride, then there you go, buddy. Yeah. Due to how train tickets work in my country, you have to buy them earlier to get the cheapest tickets, and they are non-refundable. So therefore, I had to buy both tickets at the same time for the best deal. I arrived and we talked and walked around town when Anna suddenly gets a call and answers it. I was kind of surprised that she answered it right away and didn't mention to the caller that she was busy, but whatever, it's just one call, right? Expect it happens again, and I'm not kidding. Anna takes, 6 different phone calls during our date. Full calls throughout the date, all about minor things like to do with her work on her supposed day off, and it just ruins the whole atmosphere. She doesn't inform them at any time that she can't talk, and she just has proper conversations. I don't confront Anna about this because I'm sort of trapped with a 2 hour on the way back anyway from home, and I don't want to ruin the mood or sour it while I am there. I just want to make the best out of this situation. During the date, we eat and drink at various places, both paying for our own stuff, except for one instance where Anna buys a $15 USD meal for each of us without asking me and without asking if I would pay. About 3/4 of the way through the date, and how we were both feeling, we both admitted it really wasn't going anywhere and we just weren't that into each other, which is fair enough. This results in me being sent home early and Anna literally waiting with me at the train station to make sure I went home without me asking for her to do that. As such, I also had to buy an additional $45 USD train ticket for the trip home, so that way I wouldn't have to wait all of those extra hours. So in all, I spent $115 on transport alone on this date. The problem begins with the following morning when Anna starts hassling me for the $15 for the meal. I ghost her as I think this is pretty ridiculous and how disrespectful she was of my time and money. In response, she berates me more, which I then block her. Am I the arsehole? Now there is an update, but what are your thoughts?
I think, one, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You've gone, as you were saying, to the middle of nowhere. And unfortunately, it's not turned out well. If it was me in that situation, it sucks that they couldn't get their act together. And you know what, I've got to say this, like in all my dating, most of the people I date are legends. We don't work out for whatever reason, but everyone's a legend. Even the blokes I mentioned in the podcast today, they're actually pretty decent. Weird fucking shit happened, but they're decent blokes. Just suck it up and you think, oh, look, we're not immediately vibing, but let's just have a great time and jump on the bus or jump on the transport sort of back. So, yeah, I think let sleeping dogs lie in terms of the splitting the costs. He's done enough. I think...
It's $15.
Yeah, leave it. Just like, he's done enough. Yeah, she paid for a meal. It wasn't discussed. Not that it matters. Just if you offer to be generous like that and you do that, then that's cool. Like, leave it.
Yeah, it's $15 and, like, he had to pay for the cost of transport. You didn't have to do any of that. Yeah. So, like, call it even.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an edit. Thank you all for your feedback. I greatly appreciate it. Just because a lot of the comments are bringing it up, I can address them individually. Yes, there was an additional $45 ticket that was unavoidable as Anna waited with me at the train station because she wanted to make sure I hopped back on the train. And so instead of waiting those hours with her, I bought a ticket earlier. Yeah, because
why wouldn't you just go do dates? Like, go have some fun waiting.
I guess, or like, why did she feel the need to make sure he hopped back on the train? Like, obviously he's going to. Like, she could have walked off. He could have gone done stuff. Like,
yeah, that's weird. You could have gone and seen a movie in that time.
If he had not, like, bought that new ticket, would she have waited those hours with him just sitting there at the train?
It's even worse.
Yeah,
it doesn't. The math ain't mathin'.
Yeah. So what I'm getting here is that she kind of pushed him to buy that new ticket because she wanted to make sure he hopped on the train and didn't want to wait for him. He's not really good with confrontation, and he wanted to just kind of go and explore, while he waited, but she kind of was really pushing him towards buying that ticket, and because he's not a confrontational person, he just did it. And so he does say a bit of the fault does lie with me with, like, the cost because I did buy the ticket instead of just saying, oh, no, this is what I'm going to do. But I can't believe she made him buy him a new ticket, knowing, like, she would have been there, seen how much it cost, and then would have been like, oh, by the way, you owe me $15.
Just let it go. You had a bit of a shit time and let it go.
Do you expect a date to pay?
No.
No.
No. No, I don't. Oh, it depends. No, not really. Like, I don't even know. I feel like most men will incline to do that. But then, like, I'm not fussy either way. I think, and it's interesting, a lot of my friends, yourself included, we're sort of set up in our lives, in our careers. We're not expecting a man to support us. Like if we're dating someone, we're dating them because we want to get to know them. We see some sort of, you know, something that can add to our lives, and vice versa. We can add to their lives. There is never a time that I can think of, even in any of my circles of friends. We're just not those kind of girls that expect to be paid for. In any of our friends, in any of our
Sometimes
circles.
I prefer to pay for my part, especially if I know I'm never going to see that person again.
Yes.
If they offer and I'm like, I am never seeing you again, I'm like, no, I'm happy to pay. Like, and I want to because I don't want to
Same.
feel any obligation, and I don't want them to be like,
feel shortchanged or whatever.
yeah, she made me pay, but she already knew like she wasn't going to see me again. Like, nah, I am happy to pay. Like, I do feel like if you do ask someone out and you pick the place, there is an expectation that you're paying for that because you've asked them and you've picked it. If someone said, oh no, like, let's split it, I would always be like, yeah, that's fine. Because, you know, unless they were like, they got freaking lobster and I had a salad, then I'd be like, I'll pay for my salad, but, you know.
Oh, I had you know, this guy's fucking terrible. That sent me out. We dated for not very long, and he was an asshole to me, and then he'd buy me something. So he'd be a real prick to me, but then he'd buy me like a glasshouse candle. And I was like, this is so unnecessary. Please just don't be an asshole to me. And I'm not a very gifty person anyways. Just don't be an asshole to me in the first place. And when we broke up, he sent me an invoice for everything. Like, he was real nitpicky for everything.
An invoice.
He sent me itemized things saying all this shit that he bought me. And I was like, back then, it was uni days. I was broke. And he's like, he wrote down like dinners we had, 50% of dinners, like all this sort of stuff.
So you've been like kept track of the dinners?
Kept track of everything.
Was he an accountant?
No, he was just he's still floating around Brisbane. It was that guy that had no teeth.
Oh, I have got a story for you if you want to talk about a date with no teeth.
That's a whole other story. He secretly had dentures. And I was just young. Anyways, look, that happened. And he called me once crying broke, and I gave him some money, and then all my friends were mad. They're like, you don't need to give him anything. I think I was just young. I just knew no better.
No one made him buy you those gifts. Like, you were not being like, you need to buy me this if you want to see me.
No, not at all. And I was like, I felt bad, and I was like, oh. And then my mum kicked my ass. She's like, absolutely not, Samara. He chose to do that. You're not giving him a cent more or talking to him. He's very manipulative. Anyways, what's your teeth story? Doubling back to that teeth story you mentioned.
This is another one that I matched with online. This just tells you about online dating. So we matched. He seemed fine. He was about my age. Told me he was a school teacher. And all these photos looked decent. And then we both decided we're going to meet up and we're going to do bowling because I'm like, always public places, meet up.
Yeah. He
gets there first, and then I get there. And you know when you just see someone and you're like, fuck, like, this
is... What do you mean, fuck good or fuck bad?
I was just like, I saw him, and there was like that second before he saw me where I was like...
Can I run?
Yeah, like, can I run? Can I run? And then he saw me.
What was wrong with him?
Well, for one thing, the photos of him were honestly about 10 years ago. Nothing recent. And he had a hard 10 years in that time. Life had not been kind to him in that 10 years.
He's been the PE teacher. And SPF has been, not a drop of SPF was used on it.
And there is no way that he was the same age as me, looking like the way he had. Life had been not kind to this fella. Like, he had been through the ringer, and I was like, you could tell that they were him, but like 10 years ago. And I was like,
wow, you ain't fooling no one.
I'm like, and I just am like, I don't know whether I'm just a very practical person, but I'm like, what do you expect that you've literally been very misleading, one, about your age, and two, about the way you look? Because, like, yeah, they are photos of you, but literally from 10 years ago, and you look very different. Do you think that the date's going to go well from that point? Like, and I'm trying to not be like, oh, you know, don't be judgy, you know, but I was also like, I would not have matched with you if I knew you were like 10 years older than me and you're
different stages of life. And it's a lot, like, don't lie. No, don't lie. Anyways, what else? What about the teeth?
So
is he just that much of an old fuck that his teeth are falling out?
but then he had seen me and I was like, oh fuck, like,
Fuck, and you got great teeth. He would have been...
I was like, you know when you're just like tempted to be like, I just want to run. Like, really, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if I just... But then I was like...
You should have fucking Harold.
But then I'm like, this might scar him if I literally see him and then just literally turn about. Like,
that's right.
I was like, I don't want to be that person that like leaves that horrible like mark. Like, you know, because shit stays with you sometimes.
Yeah, totally.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, he's got a drink. We'll have a drink. And I might make up a reason to leave and not do the bowling.
Yeah.
And so I get it. He opens his mouth. I have never seen worse teeth in my life.
Oh, so they're bad teeth, not...
Yeah. Have you ever watched a horror movie and then the villain has like those awful teeth? Like the movie they purposely make the teeth like so disgusting that like...
Did you have a kiss?
No fucking way. There was no way that mouth was coming. I literally... And I have a thing about teeth because I've had to have my teeth fixed because I broke them. So like I'm really like... I look at teeth. Yeah, this. I've paid a lot of money to make sure I've got nice teeth. Good teeth, Sheri. But I am like so like teeth is just like this is like, you know,
everyone has an ick sort of thing.
Yeah, and I can and they literally black. I kid you not. I am not like over exaggerating this.
Get in the High Smile commercials. Get him on the High Smile.
And not just black. Some were broken. Some were missing. It was a fucking jigsaw. Jigsaw pieces, teeth were missing. He had lost some of the puzzles, like, wow. And I was just shocked that someone could have teeth in that state. Like, literally, I'm not, like, no lie, you think of some sort of bad horror villain that's got those awful teeth and when they open it up and they talk to the victim and you're just like, I was like, oh my God. And you just know, because I was making sure I kept my distance, but you just know, there's not going to be good breath with those teeth. No, like, there's no way you can have a minty fresh breath with teeth like that. And I was just like...
It'd be like a whippersnipper on your vagina if you went down there. Fucking hell.
I did not even get that far in the thought process. I was just like, there is no way that pair of chompers is ever coming near me.
So like, what happened? How'd you get out? How'd you yeet yourself from that?
I fucking had to go through the day because he had already bought the bowling tickets. And then I was like... You know what? Like, let's just go for bowling.
And that's it. Show up, be a decent human being, and you can suck it up for a bit.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? And I was like, let's just go bowling.
Was he a decent human, teeth aside?
No, because there's other shit. He, like, literally non-stop lie. So he told me he was a teacher, and then we're starting, you know, the usual conversation, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're... And he's like, no, I'm not a teacher. And I was like, I'm pretty fucking sure you are. Or, like, at least that's what you said. But I was like, oh, maybe, because, you know, when you talk to a few people online...
What is... Yeah, you're like, fuck, I've forgotten. I've forgotten what he does.
I always, like, will quickly, like, refresh through the stories before I, like... So that way I kind of know that I'm not mixing up people. And he goes, oh, no, you must be... must have misunderstood me. I work at, like, an OSH, like the before and after school care. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, there's no issue. I've got friends that do that.
I was about to say, is this one of our friends? Doing my head like, well, I haven't seen their teeth. I haven't seen Tom and Colin's teeth lately, no.
But I was like, I don't care about your job, but it felt weird that he lied about that. Then we get more into the conversation and I find out, no, he doesn't actually have a job. He used to work at a daycare.
Chewing glass.
But he got fired.
What for?
He wouldn't say. He said, oh, the new management came in and they just didn't like me because I was too good at my job and I was making them look bad. And I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. That's what happened. Like, right. And he was just very bitter. And then I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, this guy's just paid for bowling tickets and he doesn't even have a job. And there's no way he's getting a second date. Like, and I was like feeling bad, being like, oh fuck, like this dude. I find out he's like not had a job for years. So I'm like, well, so you've lied completely about the fact that you don't even have a job. You don't even work at a daycare. Like, and I went back after the day and he 100% told me he was a school teacher. He said, I'm a primary school teacher. Like 100, and on his dating profile, it says school teacher. I was like 100% I knew that I was correct about that.
Don't let a fucking,
then
the truth get in the way of a good story.
Not only like, he was older, he didn't look like his photos, like.
The teeth.
Fuck. It was like life had smacked his face across with a baseball bat a good few times. Like,
maybe that's just karma.
Yeah, bad teeth. Like, I'm sorry, but he must have been doing some drugs at some stage to get teeth like that. Like, or he had never brushed his teeth once in his entire existence to have teeth at that state. And, like, I just don't get how you can get to that state. Like, black. I kid you not,
Yes.
black. And then at the end of the day, I'm just like, I just want to leave. Like, I was
just handshake.
I was just like chucking the balls down the lane. Like, I did
Yeah.
not give a shit. I was like, let's get through
Smashing
this.
it. Yeah, right.
He was like, I'd love to go on another, and he tried to kiss me, and I was like, no. I have never moved
Actually, a shiver just went down my spine. Like, that was
You have never
real.
seen someone move so
I got
fast in
goosebumps.
their life.
I've actually.
I freaking ducked and weaved to get out of that situation, and I was like, I am gonna go. Like, he was like, oh, do you want to go and get food? I was like, nah, I'm going. Sorry, I'm going home. I was like, at the end, I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna try. Like, I'm like, sorry. And then he messaged me being like, oh, would you like to go on another date? And I was like, nah. And he's like, oh, could you tell me why? And I was like, honestly, do you want me to be honest? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, you've lied about every single thing.
I'm glad you told him
Like,
that was direct enough. I should have done that in some of mine.
I just said, what did you think
it?
was going to come from the fact that your photos are like clearly very old? Your appearance has changed a lot. Like, you clearly lied about your age. You lied about your job. Like, where did you think this was going to go? Like,
yeah, it ain't it. How did he take it?
he just didn't reply back.
Yeah, fair.
And like, I didn't say anything about his teeth, but I was like, I just said, your appearance isn't what it is in the photos. Like, I'm like, how would you feel if you went on a date with someone and they were a lot older than what they said and all of this? And he just didn't reply back.
I think as chicks, I can't speak for every single female on the planet, but when we're on a date that's not so good, and it might happen with guys, I don't know, but I can speak on my behalf and maybe your behalf. Sometimes you are just kind and polite because you don't want it to turn bad or dangerous. So you go into these dates with a really open mind. Like we were saying at the start of this episode, you pick public places. You sometimes don't give up your address. You do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. And then being polite and just pushing through the date is sometimes misconstrued, because you're just not a piece of shit to someone, which is sad that society's at a place that, you give someone the best.
Actually, one of our friends, you know him, he literally had a girl jump out the window during a date.
Oh, fuck, I actually heard. Yeah. Go on.
One of our guy mates went on a date, and I don't think he could have done anything that particular wrong. And he does look like his photos, like on his dating profile and stuff like that, And so they went to a bar.
And he's a nice bloke, and he's kind of funny.
He is quite funny and stuff. And I don't think within that time frame he could have done anything that would have really put his foot in his mouth, like for someone to do that. They went to a bar, they get a drink, and they sit down, they chat for a bit. She says, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. He goes, yeah, okay, cool. She climbs out of the bathroom window instead of just saying, like, look, this is not for me, I'm out. Doesn't even, like, text him to be like, look, I've left. Not even, like, even a fake sort of, I've had an emergency, I've had to leave. So he's just sitting there waiting. Eventually he's like, oh, well, this is, like, been a bit of a time. Like, so he goes up to the bartender and says, oh, my friend's in the bathroom. And his first thought is she's hurt herself, something's happened. That's the only reason.
Go check on her.
Yeah, can you go check on her? The bartender comes back and says, look, I don't know how to tell you, but there ain't no one there. She had climbed out of the bathroom window at the bar. He did say, silver lining, the bartender did feel bad for him and gave him a free drink.
What bar? What restaurant?
Oh, it was just some place in West End.
Shit.
But
that place is heroin chic, Old West End, so she's really clambering out the... Bloody hell.
Oh my god. See, I didn't want to be that person. Okay, so this is going to be the last story for this.
Hit it, shit.
Okay, so this one's from Am I the Arsehole for Making My Friend Look Bad on a Double Date by Not Splitting the Bill? My 18-year-old male friend and roommate, 19-year-old male David, has been trying to catch this girl, 19 female Mia, for weeks, but she's playing hard to get and always has an excuse for not going out with him. Last weekend, she said she couldn't because her friends from another college, 19-year-old female Brooke, was visiting. So David then offered that she could bring her friend along and that he would bring me along for her friend. And Mia finally said yes. Mia knows me from some classes that we have together, and I think she's a really nice person. And I was really nervous about going because I've never been in a real date with a woman. I knew Brooke was going to be totally out of my league, but I had hoped that with going with David, it would make me look better by association.
And maybe something we haven't thought of, like we just said, a friend of ours, like a lot of us, my stories I know were from girls, but guys would have their own fucking set of problems with dating chicks for sure. Like there's a whole other swag of things.
Yeah, we should revisit this one again and get a
From
guy.
Yes.
We'll get some, send us some of your bad dates in.
We want to
and
hear
we will revisit this, and we might get one of our guy mates in, and he can share his perspective. David is quoting what my mum said after meeting him once: a handsome stud and a big ladies' man. So obviously his friend, quite a good-looking fella then. He has been with so many women since we started college last year that I've lost count. Mia is in the women's baseball team, and David is really set to get together because he wants to experiment with sexual positions. You can tell they're young.
What?
Experiment.
What's that got to do with baseball? Whatever.
Well,
we'll find out.
I have no idea how a 19-year-old male's mind works. Mia is in the women's baseball team, and David is really set to get her because he wants to experiment with sexual positions and see how they would work with a woman closer to his height with him. So she's obviously tall.
Wow.
Brooke was very uninterested in me during the whole night, and I tried to talk to her following the tips David gave me, but she barely responded and mostly just looked at her phone. I just knew she was disappointed because of how unattractive I am. Aww. And compared to David, and how clearly she was getting the short end of the stick in this date. When the bill came...
bastard. Yep, go on.
When the bill came, I paid for Brooke's part and mine. David only paid for his, and Mia made a weird face when she realised, but didn't say anything about it.
So he just paid for himself?
No, so he paid for him and his date. So he paid for Brooke, even though he knew it's not going anywhere, because he's obviously quite a decent person.
Yeah, right.
David, who seems like the massive ass, just paid for himself. Even though the date was for him because he wants to get with Mia, he just paid for himself.
How did that pan out?
Clearly not well.
Not well.
If this girl is already playing hard to get and she's not 100% into you, you have to step your game up and be like, look, by doing things like paying for her food and stuff like that, because he's the one that is chasing her. After leaving them at their dorm, David was mad at me because he says me paying made him look bad.
Oh.
Nah, mate. You made yourself look bad. He was saying I was showing off because I have more money than him, but I swore to him that wasn't my intention. He explained he has too many dates regularly pay for all, so why should he need to split it at all? So he gets girls that pay for him. As I said, I don't have any dating experience, and I believe the man paying was the usual thing to do. I feel really bad for hurting his chances with Mia, knowing how important it is for him, and I apologize profusely multiple times, but he's still mad at me. Am I the arsehole?
I guess the other bloke, when it comes down to it, it's his prerogative. He doesn't have to pay for his date's dinner or whatever, and that's just how that cookie
But don't put your shit behaviour on your friends.
No, that's exactly it. Like, that, you just cop it sweet. Don't be a sookie lala bummer.
Okay, so we've got some comments here. Mm-hmm. You are definitely not the arsehole, but your friend David is. I doubt Mia is playing hard to get. She probably can sense David is after one thing and legitimately does not want to date him. So I doubt this hurt his chances at all. You know what? It probably just, her gut is probably like, I was right.
Yeah, woman's intuition.
Like, yeah.
I'm starting to listen to mine.
Yeah, and then someone wrote, gross. He also only wants to date her so he can try new sexual positions.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that, Chestnut. Yeah, yucky.
Yeah, someone's like, yeah, I seriously need a shower after that comment. David is disgusting. Well, that is the end of this bad dates episode. I hope you guys have liked it. If you are watching us on YouTube, then definitely make sure you subscribe, as we've got some really good episodes coming up. Some really, really spicy ones coming into the ballpark. And don't forget to like this video if you are watching it on YouTube. But if you are listening to us on one of the many podcast platforms, don't forget to give us a follow, as that's really helpful.
Yes, and our next episode is with dancers, exotic dancers, which we're so excited about because the girls have some tales, and so do the guys. So really excited to kick that one off.
We've even got a special guest for that one coming on.
Yes!
So you guys have got to subscribe to make sure you find out.
Straight from the horse's mouth. And look, if you have any wild yarns, as you saw today, we're reading out your stories. So send us, please, your yarn as a message. I can mention your name, I can not mention your name, and we'd love to read it out because I love getting told people's secrets. It's my actual...
I love having a bit of a yarn and just finding out some little secrets.
I love it. I love it.
They're
I
always
love
so
it.
juicy.
Yes. Well, until next time, guys.